What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been quite a while since I did any videos. I've been busy, I've been sick, had a lot going on, but this is a week that I've been waiting for. This is my favorite time of the year for movies. This time of the month in January and next month, of course, that is the Oscar nominations for this month and the actual Oscars that air around February, sometimes March. But this is really exciting for people who love movies. And this year, I am really honestly excited for anything that's nominated for all these awards, especially with the Best Picture category. And I'm excited to make this video. I've been wanting to do something like this on my channel. When I first started my channel is when the Oscar nominations for last year were first announced, and I didn't really get to do much of a video like I'm doing right now. And this is something I really want to share my thoughts on what I think is going to win, on what I would like to win, maybe some snubs, some surprises in my opinion, but most of all I want to hear from you guys. The same stuff that I'm sharing, I want to hear from you all as well. I love talking to people that love the Oscars just as much as I do and giving their thoughts on what they think that might win. This video is mainly concentrating on Best Picture, Director, and the 4 acting categories. I'll give you a quick rundown on what I think may win for the technical awards, but really won't go far too deep into those. But I want to concentrate on the main ones. Best Picture I'm going to leave for last, but I'll just say this. For Best Picture, you had 9 movies nominated. And lucky for me, I was actually able to see all 9 films before they were actually announced. And that's really cool because I love all 9 movies that are nominated for Best Picture. I'd watch them again and again, and they're very unique and special and entertaining in their own ways. But I'll leave that for last, like I said. The one I want to start with is Best Director. It's interesting with this list. We have Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What makes this list interesting is that in the Golden Globes is the exact same nominees. And usually, I'll say this now, the Golden Globes is usually a pretty good precursor to what may happen on the Oscars, because some of the time they're actually right. And for the winner for the Golden Globes, it was Sam Mendes for 1917. I predict he's going to win for the Oscars, and he's also the same one that is a favorite of mine that I want him to win. This film is a cinematic achievement. All 5 of these movies are great in their own way, but he did something different that the other movies did not, and creating this World War I film. And I recommend anyone see this, by the way. But as for the other ones, Joker, Parasite, Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I loved all those movies. But I just feel he is the one that's going to be the top contender, the top one that I feel is going to win. I do want him to win. If there's a runner-up for this one, I would probably say Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, because that was, once again, a very unique type of film, and the way that it was created was something that we've never seen before. There's not really any upsets or snubs here, because this is exactly what I was predicting. Actually, there may have been one snub, and that is Greta Gerwig for Little Women. I feel she deserved that nomination for that, because I really like that movie, and she did a good job in recreating a story that we've seen so many times and putting it in such a new and refreshing, and just putting some different energy in it that we didn't expect from other interpretations of Little Women. But at least she's nominated for a screenplay. And the next one is the 4 acting categories. You have for lead actor Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. For the Golden Globes, you had Joaquin Phoenix win for Joker. Once again, I feel he's going to win, and also he's my favorite. I want him to win. I feel he put a lot of work into his role, and this is an actor that he deserves an Oscar, just like with Leo before he won for The Revenant a few years ago. He was an actor that everyone was saying, give him an Oscar already. Joaquin Phoenix is also he's in that same position. He deserves an Oscar. He's done great work in his previous films like Gladiator, Walk the Line, Her, The Master, and he's never been given the credit he deserves. So I'm thinking he's finally going to get his due for this movie. Everyone else, though, I've seen everyone's performance except for Antonio Banderas. I've heard he was great in that film, Pain and Glory. But if there were any runner-ups or surprises, I'd probably say Leonardo DiCaprio, or maybe even Adam Driver for Marriage Story. No snubs I see in this one. Pretty much what I was expecting. Actress in leading role. This is another one I kind of feel I know who's going to win, but you have Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, which I've just seen recently, by the way, and she did amazing in that. You have Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan, if I'm pronouncing that right, for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. Golden Globes, Renee Zellweger for Judy. She won for Best Actress. She did great, but she is the one I'm going to predict that's going to win. But I actually want Charlize Theron to win for Best Actress for Bombshell. I feel anytime Charlize Theron pulls off a role where she's playing a real person and they have to use some kind of cosmetics to transform herself into that person, she turns into that person. She did that with Eileen Wuornos in Monster. She won an Oscar for that, and I feel like she did that once again portraying Megyn Kelly. She changed into somebody completely different, and she went with it, and it was convincing, and I feel she put a lot of work into it. Now, Renee Zellweger did the same thing for Judy. They changed up her face. She had a different persona. I mean, she really put her all into it, but I really had more of a... I felt something different. I felt something more with Charlize Theron. I'm just hoping she wins, but it's pretty obvious that it might be Renee Zellweger this year. And then you have the supporting roles in actor and actress. These are going to be really quick because they're both ones that I'm like, I know what might win, but they're not ones I want to win. You have Tom Hanks in Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci in The Irishman, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time. And then supporting actors, I'll do that real quick. Kathy Bates for Her Jewel, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, and Florence Pugh, Little Women, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Now, the winners of the Globes were Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and for Best Supporting Actor was Lauren Dern in Marriage Story. Both of them are fine actors, but I felt Laura Dern, for example, her performance wasn't very memorable to me. I feel like I need to watch the movie again just to see what she did to deserve a Globe and an Oscar nomination, because I don't really remember her performance that well. And for Brad Pitt, he was great in the film, but I feel like he's done many other films that surpass his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Though I do hope he wins. He's another actor that deserves an Oscar finally. But these two I feel are going to be the ones that are going to win the Oscar for the supporting roles. But when it comes to supporting actor, I would have been rooting for Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, or even Al Pacino, but he's the standout for me in The Irishman. As for supporting actress, I probably would say Florence Pugh. She is also the surprise for me to see in this list because she wasn't nominated in the Globes, and I was really hoping for her to get some sort of nomination this year because she's been a really breakthrough actress from 2019 with this movie and Midsummer. So I would like her to win. But now that we have the bigger categories out of the way, except Best Picture, of course, I'm going to quickly give a rundown of every single category and not spend too much time on each one just because there's just so many of them. Original Screenplay, you have Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. My money is on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, being that it won for the Globes, but also for Parasite. I feel that might be another runner-up that may take the award as well. I would like Knives Out to win. I really like the story for that one, but I feel it's going to be Once Upon a Time. Adapted screenplay of The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and Two Popes. It's nice to see the Little Women on here. Joker, I felt the story was a little bit too simple, but I feel it's going to be Little Women or The Irishman. If I had to pick one, probably The Irishman. That's what I'm going to go with, and I would like Little Women to win out of the five. Animated feature. This is an interesting one. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, Toy Story 4. I actually saw only 2 of these movies out of these 5 nominated films, so I really can't say that much about this one. But from what I'm hearing and from what I saw at the Golden Globes, Missing Link was the one that did win. I'm not going to say which one I want to win, being that I didn't see them all, but I feel it's going to be Missing Link for this one. International feature film is another one. I'm not going to go too much into that, but we do know Parasite is one of the 5 that's nominated. It's most likely this is the one that's going to win, being that it's received the most praise out of the 5 films as far as I know. Next you have original score, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story 1917, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. My money is on Joker and I feel it's going to win, and I want it to win. I've heard the scores for all 5 films. Marriage Story would be my runner-up, being that I did like the score for that one, but I feel it's going to be Joker. It has just a very haunting score to it. I cannot pronounce the woman's name. That's the composer, but she is very talented, and she knew very well what she was doing with creating the music for this world, and really makes the movie a world of a difference when you're watching it. So I'm really rooting for Joker for that one. Original song, you got I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough, Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, Stand Up from Harriet, I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man, and I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4. Now, for these 5 films, what's interesting about them is that none of these 5 are actually from a film that's nominated for Best Picture, and usually have a few, and people usually go to that one first, meaning, oh, that's the one that's going to win. For Golden Globes, it was the Rocket Man song, I'm Gonna Love Me Again. I feel that one's going to win, and once again, that's the one I'm rooting for. I've heard all 5 songs, but that's the one I think I liked the most, I felt the most connection with, and what Elton John wrote for that song. And I just think that's the one that it just seems a little bit obvious, being that it won already, and just I think to me it just stands out amongst the other 4 nominations. The next category, or I should say the next 2 categories, sound editing and sound mixing, I kind of put them both within the same, even though they're 2 different things within sound. But most of the time you get one film that wins both awards. And for the categories, for the nominations for both of them, you have 4 movies that are nominated for each category. Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are both nominated for sound editing and mixing. With sound editing, you also have added Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Sound mixing, you also have Ad Astra, which is nice to see Ad Astra, by the way. We haven't seen any nominations for that movie at all, and definitely deserves at least something. For this one, I feel it's going to be Ford versus Ferrari for both of them, because there's a lot of work I see that went into that in creating the sounds and the editing for it, for the motor car racing. And usually movies like that require some type of world where it's either car racing, or even war films like 1917. That's another one that I feel is a runner-up. I feel a lot of work goes into that. So my money's on Ford versus Ferrari or 1917. It's kind of a tie between those 2. I feel it's going to be either or. The other movies that are nominated, I don't really see that much of leeway for it to be nominated. I just feel it's going to be either Ford or 1917. Production design, cinematography, these are my favorite categories out of the technical categories. Production design, you have Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I feel it's going to be 1917 because of the scope of the world Sam Mendes created. He used these continuously long shots, so he had to have big sets in order to make what he was creating to make it look real. And if you've seen the movie, he had a lot of areas that were just very vast that he probably had to put a lot of time into putting so much detail to make it look real. And war films, usually Hollywood like war films, like period films. This is obviously both of them. So I see this one taking the award for production design. I feel it's going to win, and I want it to win. If there's any runner-ups, I'd probably say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it really has a retro style to it. Hollywood also likes movies about Hollywood, so that's another bet that I think that one might win. Cinematography, my number 1 favorite category. You have The Irishman, Joker, Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I liked Once Upon a Time's cinematography a lot, and 1917's and Joker I really loved. I would like Joker to win, but I feel it's going to be The Lighthouse. It had a very beautiful way of capturing this black and white film look, and I do want it to win too. I want that one as well to win as well, but I feel like that's the one that's going to win out of the 5. And this is another movie that only was granted 1 nomination, and I feel it deserves. If it had to get any technical award, it would be cinematography. So I feel it does deserve it, but Joker is a runner-up for me. Then you have makeup and hairstyling. You have Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. That's a lot of nominations for makeup. Usually I only have 3. I feel for this one it's going to be Bombshell, and I also want it to be Bombshell because of the work they put in to create these people that are still around and make them into these actors, making them look just like them. And they did a great job with creating Charlize Theron to make her look like Megyn Kelly. It was like a completely different person. So that's the one I feel is going to at least get that award. Costume design, you have Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now you have Hollywood, they like films about Hollywood, they like war films, they also like period pieces. It's possible Little Women may take home the award for costume design, being it's a period piece. If not that one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Actually, that's the one I would like to win, but I feel this could be Little Women, being that they like period type of films. Film editing, you have Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. This one's, I'm probably gonna have to go with Ford vs. Ferrari because of the racing scenes, of the amount of editing that they had to go through in order to give that illusion of how fast it was going. But I also feel it could be Irishman. It's a 3.5 hour long movie, so a lot of editing had to be made for that. And that film, surprisingly, it goes pretty quick, and they do it in a way that's entertaining, and the editing plays a big part in when you're watching a film of how long it may feel, or how short it may feel. So that's an achievement in itself. So I feel it's going to be Irishman or Ford versus Ferrari. Last but not least, we have visual effects. And it's for Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, Lion King 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Usually I guess this one right almost every year. This year it's kind of hard. I don't think it's going to be Lion King. It's possible 1917. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, probably not. I think it's going to be Irishman or 1917. It's got to be either one of those two. And funny enough, I just mentioned those, and those are the only 2 out of the 5 that are also nominated for Best Picture. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be 1917. And now we come to the biggest award of them all, Best Picture. And as I said before, you have 9 movies here. I had a chance to see all 9 of them already, and it's just very hard to pick one that I would personally want to win, but it's not as hard to say which one I think is going to win. You have Joker leading with 11 nominations, which is pretty surprising. You have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You also have The Irishman, and you have 1917 all nominated for 10 awards, so very healthy numbers. And you even have ones that are nominated for less awards. It's still a good amount of them. You have Parasite, Marriage Story, and Little Women all nominated for 6. And last, you have Ford vs. Ferrari nominated for 4. Now, sometimes some people go by the ones that are nominated for the most is the one that's most likely to win. Not necessarily true. You had movies like Departed was nominated for, I think, 6 awards, and it took home Best Picture and Director. So it really depends. I think my money is on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and 1917. They both won at the Golden Globes. I try not to go by every single award for the Golden Globes. I know I keep referencing the Globes, but sometimes they're actually right. And I feel it makes sense, not just for the Golden Globes. I feel out of all 9 films, it makes sense for one of those 2 films to actually win. Though, once again, I keep saying runner-up as a Parasite. I keep saying it is a runner-up, but there's a chance it could possibly be the first foreign language film to win Best Picture, and it does deserve it if it wins. If there's any surprises, I would be surprised if Ford vs. Ferrari, Little Women, or Marriage Story won. I would be surprised if Joker won. Are there any upsets if one won? In my opinion, no. If any one of these 9 films actually won Best Picture, I would not be upset. I'd be surprised, but in a good way. They all deserve Best Picture, in my opinion. But if I had to pick one that I'd want to win, it would probably be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, lucky enough for me, that's also the one I think it's going to win. If not that one, 1917, running right behind that, Parasite. Maybe one running behind that, possibly The Irishman. And there you have it. All the nominations for the Oscars 2020. I'm excited for this ceremony next month. Once again, tell me in the comments below, what movie are you rooting for Best Picture or any of these categories. 2019 was really a great year for film, and I just hope that 2020 is just as good of a year. Thank you guys so much for watching this somewhat longer video than I usually make. Don't forget to comment below, don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe so we can talk movies, TV shows, and more.